Welcome to the Bike Shed podcast, where software engineers quietly worry about quality while the tools keep getting louder. I'm your co host, trusting AI with syntax, but not with judgment, Scott K. And joining me, a man who hears the phrase good enough and immediately starts sweating, Matt Hamlin. And my other co host, a man whose instincts are fast, sharp, and occasionally dangerous, Dillon Spicy Take Curry. All right. Today, we wanted to show that Dillon had some things that he has started to build that helped him with his productivity and how AI can help drive productivity, but also build productivity tools. So we wanted to give you some ideas about what you might be able to build to drive your productivity. Okay, Dillon, take it away.
So, at work, I feel like the more tokens I burn, the better I look as an employee. So I've been using that as an opportunity to just like experiment and build as many different things as possible to try to increase my productivity at work. So one of those is something I'm calling like a daily briefing dashboard. And maybe we can share some screenshots. I can like throw some mock data in it so I'm not leaking my company data. But basically, it's a dashboard. It gives me a summary of like what I'm doing today based on some information I've given it yesterday, as well as a bunch of different modules on the site. And what I mean by modules is one is a module with to-dos, one's with my PRs, one's with my JIRA tickets, one has Datadog alerts, one summarizes recent notes and just puts them in like a list so I can peruse those. Not every module is like as useful as the other, and I seem to use different ones every day. But the system I built is like, oh, if I have a new data source, I want to build a module, I can build that and surface it in whatever way I want within this dashboard. And then this has also become a place where anytime I want to experiment with anything new in AI, I'll just do it here. So I want to like build a new feature, a new page, I can just test it out here. It's been kind of a fun place to try things out.
I feel like with AI, we're like given a really nice tool to like build personal software, which I think has been maybe a small niche in the software development sort of community, broadly speaking, I guess, in the sense of like you build a tool for your own use case versus needing to build something that solves the problems of like thousands or millions of people, or adopting something that's already been built that might not be perfect for your use case. I feel like AI gives you like a really fast track way to build something that's like I specifically need, like Dillon, like what you're saying is like I want to be able to like go to a single place that shows Datadog alerts, shows my JIRA issues, shows other to-dos I had miscellaneous, like sort of on the side. I had notes or whatever. It's like really nice that like you can very easily say these are the things that I care about, and there's probably not an easy way to do that in off-the-shelf software. Like probably the closest thing to this dashboard would be something like Notion, but you would need like all your company data in Notion also to do this. And it's like I don't know. I feel like it would be very hard pressed to try to do this with something already existing.
Saw something, but this is crazy. I listened to another podcast recently. Never do this. It's called Latent Space. You probably heard of it. And they had a guy on there, and there's actually a product that's just like this called Dream. I think it's Dreams, Dream.io. I don't know, Dream.ai. Essentially the same thing, where you can connect all these different sources into different modules. It's got like a lot more going on. You can connect your bank to it, do all kinds of craziness. Like I'm using my limited scope of APIs I can access at work. So like I want to hook up Google Calendar to this, but I can't yet. I want to hook up Slack, I can't. Like it would be great if I could just be like pull all the recent messages from Slack in these channels and like surface them in a module so I can make sure to like follow up on them. Because what I'm trying to do is just see everything I care about, like you said, all in one snapshot without having to like go to 6 different websites like every 5 minutes to make sure I'm not missing something. That's kind of what work feels like sometimes. It's like I'm alt tabbing all over the place while trying to do work on the side and trying to stay up to date with everyone. And I feel like I'm like not answering somebody on Slack if I'm not checking it every 5 minutes.
Yeah, I have some questions, and then I have some side comments, and I'll hold off kind of based off what you said. But One of the big things is like, what made you decide to build this yourself instead of like looking for an existing tool? And I got a follow up for you after that.
Primary reason is I just wanted to see if I could find the like best way to use AI for my actual work. So this was like a great place to just try things out. And nobody's telling me to stop spending money. So yeah, I'm hitting like 2,500 on the month on Claude tokens. So I don't know if that's good or bad, but no one's telling me to stop. So still cooking.
The more you use it, I think the better it is actually. So I was going
That's
to ask you what problems you were actually trying to solve, but I think you kind of talked about it, having like one space where you can find all these things. You don't have to open 6 different tabs. And like one of my comments here was just like, it's just a dashboard, right? Like there's millions of these, like millions of these
yeah,
out there, but it's targeted towards what you need, and therefore it's personal. And because of
yeah,
AI, you were able to just like kind of spin this thing up. It's like not a lot of effort. Not there's no real blockers. It's all for yourself, and you're able to kind of execute on that, right? Fair to say.
yeah, yeah. And I won't say that I didn't put a lot of like thought and time into it. I still spent like at least 8 hours on this or more, iterating. Because I like get something close to what I want, and then I'm like, no, 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 I want this instead. And then it just like spirals. Maybe I was like just spending too much time with Claude trying to figure out what I wanted. But every day I'll look at it and be like, I don't really like use this anymore. I'm gonna adjust this dashboard to fit like how I feel today, and like try to improve my workflow every day. That's kind of how I've like tried to use AI. Is every day I'm like, all right, this skill doesn't feel like it's meeting my needs the way like initially planned for it. So I'm gonna like have it be. I'm gonna try to adjust it to be better today. That's kind of how my mindset has been here.
So you may have kind of covered this, but like, how did you figure out what to build first? It sounds like you kind of just were like, this is my problem, or at least you knew you wanted one
Oh
space to
yeah,
see these things.
my starting point was more of a joke. I was like, how cool would it be, like just jokingly at 5 p.m. if I use this new cron feature in Claude to at 9 a.m. to like open a web page and post an inspirational quote. That was all I like planned for. And then I was like, all right, this is kind of stupid, even though it's kind of cool. And I was like, wait, what could I actually put on this that would make my day easier? The origin story is pretty funny, yeah.
And then you were like, you kind of had a, I guess, eureka moment where you're like, oh, this could actually be really useful.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. I already struggle when I get to work. Like I get to work and I'm like, wait, what should I focus on? Like, do I go to Slack? Do I go to email? Do I go to my tickets? Do I go to my like reviews? Like it's kind of hard. I don't know, maybe you guys have like a set process or plan in what order you take it, but I just wanted something where I could like just ease into my morning a little bit and just be like, all right, let's just like remember where we are and then make a decision of where we want to go at the start of the day. And there might be some things in my list that I'm just like, oh shit, I've completely forgot about this. I should definitely follow up on that, like an old PR or a JIRA ticket.
You're like totally leading me into a bunch of questions, but I'm going to try to stay in this hierarchy I created. Okay, so where did AI surprise you in this build? Like, what did it do better or worse than you expected?
um, it was really good at functionally getting everything working. The part, and maybe this is going to lead into like the way everyone's using AI is anytime I have it like build a new thing, it was really hard to keep it on the design that I created. Like it would start to like make silly mistakes with like spacing and layout, or it would just completely like stray away from like the design system I created. And that could be just partly because I didn't create like a traditional design system and component system for it to pull from. So I would like constantly be like trying to fix those problems. Um,
Interesting. So you were kind of having issues with UI more than anything?
the majority of the issues were UI, yeah. And then the other thing is like you kind of hit a roadblock and you're like, oh, maybe I should use like a completely different framework for this. and it's like a decision in the road where it's like, oh, maybe I need SQLite. And I kind of thought about that a couple times, and I'm like, wait, like slow down. I don't want to, because I feel like that's a bad decision to make sometimes with these projects. Is you just fully refactor a complete section of it, and next thing you know, you're spending all day trying to fix these little bugs because it's not capable of getting it all the way across to that refactor or that replatform. So I've tried to keep it as simple as I could. Like there's zero dependencies. You just do make start and it's a Python server and HTML and CSS and that's it. There's no like Next.js or React or anything. Which maybe that's helped. I'm not really sure. I think it's probably helped AI make improvements because it doesn't have to think so much about the setup.
You mentioned like the design system, like not following the rules there. Do you have any sort of like skills or agent rules around how it should pull UI? Is that like a common problem you're having? I think Matt was mentioning that's a common issue for folks.
No. I don't really have a solve for it. I did have it like basically audit all the UI it had created and create like its own little design system.
Okay. Did you make this in a big repo or is this like in its own small, like the context window of Claude, or I think you're using Claude, right? Was it in a big space or just a small space?
I'm always using Claude within this like massive folder. And then I have a
Yeah.
repos folder within that. But what I noticed is when you start to say like Claude work on something in this repo, it will just CD into it, and now its context is localized to
Okay.
that area.
But that repo that it was localized in, I assume that's like there's a lot going on in there. It's not just like an isolated repo for your tool and then it knows about.
It's pretty isolated. There's like four or five pages, and then there's like the design system. And then I've started to be like, hey, make sure you're following the design system. And it's hard. Like you don't have to say that for every prompt. Like make sure you do this, make sure you do that. So
Yeah.
like I try to be like cognizant of it and be like, okay, add that to your Claude MD, add that to my memory, or like as like something that I want to happen more regularly.
Maybe we should do a whole episode on like how do you get good UI out of agents. But so I've used like sort of a similar practice before where for certain like side project websites I've like set up a route that acts kind of like a like as if you deployed Storybook sort of thing where it's just like a renders all of our like local components to a single page, not even documentation. It's just like here's an example of how you render this I don't know, like card component. Here's an example of like using this other component. um and I haven't really tested that, so it's like more sort of just vibes at this point, but I feel like that has helped it a little bit in terms of like discovering other component patterns that are used within the site. So yeah, I feel like I've had like had maybe some semi decent success with the like a similar pattern as well. You were talking about your setup. I think it might be surprising potentially for folks that you chose to go with just a simple HTTP server and some like HTML and JavaScript and maybe raw CSS. Like I'm curious if was that something that you intentionally said like hey Claude, like start with just a simple server and HTML file and like build it out from there, or is that something that the agent sort of landed on over some iterations?
Initially, I was just like, Claude, you pick the framework. I just wanted to see.
Yeah.
And then eventually I was like, it's actually kind of nice to not have any dependencies. And it's
Hmm.
you probably wasting context. Like looking back, maybe that's why I use so many tokens though. Is I'm not pulling like these helpful packages in and just using them. It's having to reinvent the wheel for like everything, which is kind of crazy to
Yeah.
think about. Like I I haven't even got into this, but there's like I had this separate page on the dashboard where I can track these like dev harnesses, which is like a development workflow from like scoping to like planning to execution to review. And I can like monitor the task on this dashboard. And I've built like a full Kanban board that you can like horizontally scroll on it, collapses the columns on the right hand side. I'll have to like post some screenshots of that. But it's just been a good learning experience on how to use AI. And I didn't use the same prompting to build each piece of it. I was like testing, okay, if I use brain, like the superpower skill, I'll build the feature and see how that works. I'll use I'll use the like feature dev skill and see how that works. I'll just not use a skill and see how it works. Just like testing and seeing what feels right. And then sometimes use the playwright MCP to like have it loaded and like test it. Just like, but that's really slow. So just trying to get the best feel for it.
How much are you also like reviewing the output, or are you just sort of like saying like the UI looks good? Because I think there's like a variety of like sort of a scale of like how much you should review, AI output, and it's like in this case, I feel like with personal software, it's like especially in a case where like correct me if I'm wrong, you're not even deploying this anywhere. You're just like spinning up the server locally. It's like sort of in, what we would maybe call like dev mode for most cases. Like that's the only way you're using it basically. So it's like you probably maybe don't care that much in terms of the code quality that it's generating, but I'm curious like your takes on that for this project.
Um, I'm usually not too worried about it unless something goes really wrong. Like if something's really broken, I'll like dig a little into it and be like, all right, just don't do that. Like I'll actually start to review the code. But otherwise, I kind of just let it loose. Yeah, and sometimes I'll just be like, all right, have Opus review that. Like have an agent review that and point out anything that looks wrong, and we can talk about if we need to improve it or not. But the code quality is probably pretty bad, to be honest. Like sometimes I'll see it's repeating the same thing like 8 times to build different pages or modules, and I'll be like, hey, it's time to like put that in a shared module so you stop making mistakes.
Yeah.
So it has not been a focus with this project. It was more just like, let's just toss it together. This is not how I do like actual work, by the way.
Yeah, that's a good caveat. Like maybe we should throw a little spoiler or something at the start of the episode saying like, at least for this intent, like we're sort of primarily talking about personal software side project sort of things versus work quality.
So you're saying it's a rougher and rugged. It's not.
Yeah, for sure. And the biggest thing that I'm worried about with this is it's using environment variables. So I just have to like make sure I'm not like having a security leak. So that's like my biggest concern with the entire
Put them in
project.
an M file and
Yeah, I know, but I'm just afraid it's gonna like do something stupid. And
yeah,
that's my biggest concern with the entire project.
there's some security there. Yeah, for sure. Did building this change how you think about what's worth automating?
Um, Maybe. I think it's just like led me more to just thinking about different ways to use AI. I've started building like custom skills for my workflow outside the scope of this.
So it led you to kind of building those skills more often.
Yeah. And sort of my biggest thing, and I feel like it's a cool thing, is like anytime you use a skill, reflect on like how it did and then ask Claude to like improve it.
All right, we talked briefly about what AI maybe doesn't do well, and I guess we're not going to talk about it today, but I have a teaser that I have a pretty good solution for that. Um, but what about something you assumed AI couldn't do well that it actually handled well?
Couldn't do well, but it handled well.
Anything you were surprised by when you used it? Anything it did like better than you expected, I guess?
Um, I think more recently, and I'm just trying to think like, what am I using AI to do more
Yeah.
recently? And it's through this is how I've learned is like anytime I'm thinking through a problem, like a plan or anything, I have it generate me like something visual in an HTML page, like a visual architecture, a visual diagram, a user flow, um, a mapping of things to other things. Like that's just to like, because just straight text for me is kind of hard. I can read it, I'll get it, but having some sort of visualization is super helpful, especially for sharing to other people.
I have to do this a lot. We have so many services. I have to ask it to like build me a diagram. I'm like, can you just like build me a mapping? I need to see this again so that I
Yeah,
understand it. That's good.
I was
Great
like
point.
reviewing somebody else's tech plan, and I'm like, this is just not. I can't get it in my skull. Like, it's
Yeah.
not sticking. So it's like, just make me like an explainer doc, and it just helped me look at the problem in a different way, visually, and it helped me learn it quicker. So I think that's like my biggest thing I've improved recently is I'm working on another project, and I'm spending so much upfront time planning and like visualizing different user flows and things like that, just to make sure like I have a really good mental model of the entire problem. And now it's like, okay, now I can focus in on specific pieces and solve for them. I feel like if I don't have that full mental model of the project, and I start to get very specific on problems or implementation, I'm gonna miss like really big pieces, and it's gonna come back to bite me at the end. So I'm this is top of mind because I'm starting a new project like today.
I feel like but yeah, maybe it deserves its own episode also in terms of like onboarding to an existing code base using AI. Like, how do you like? What are some tips and tricks that we know of to use AI to help you get more situated with something that's new for you? I guess. Yeah, because like, we have a pretty gnarly monorepo that I work within, and it's like sometimes it's hard to remember the order in which packages depend on each other in terms of like, oh, can I import from this package into this one, or is that causing a circular dep at some point? And so I have like Claude on the side like generate like a nice little graph of like showing me the dependencies of like if I have a helper that I need to import across the three things, like where should I put it, and help me visualize that. um, yeah, I feel like that's like something that maybe a lot of people sleep on. um, I'm curious if we want to talk a little bit more about the skills or like working with skills. I don't want to like cut off if you had some like other further thoughts there, Scott, on like the specifically like the dashboard stuff
I
before
still
we
got
jump
some
to that.
questions I'd love to run through, and then we can get to the skills.
Okay, let's go.
All right, cool. If someone wanted to build something similar, where would you tell them to start?
Um, I would just draw like what you want it to look like, or literally one of the things I like to do if I'm working from home, I don't like doing this at work because I think I would look insane, is literally talk to Claude and be like, hey, I want to build this thing. I want to have this stuff in it. Just like ramble on and on and on, and just start there. Like one example is a friend at work. I sent him the repo and he didn't want to use it, which is fine. He took a screenshot of my app and just gave it to Claude and said, hey, I want these features from this. And then he got started. And now he has like his own custom app where he has to-dos, PRs. He built like a custom interface where he can read comments directly in his dashboard and respond to them. And Claude will give him like sample responses to comments that he can review like on the fly without ever going to GitHub. So I would say just like figure out what's important to you and what's going to make your job easier. Like every morning, for that's what it was for me. I called it a morning briefing. Just like every morning I go somewhere, I can see all the information I care about. So just like start there.
Do you think most developers are underestimating what they could build with AI right now?
Um, yeah, I feel like where I work, a lot of developers are afraid to use AI to build things that aren't their tickets. And maybe they have like this sort of internal fear that someone's going to see what they're building and be like, that's not for work. Um, so they think they're going to get like fired or something because of it, which maybe I get fired tomorrow because of this.
You won't.
But I've been very like transparent with leadership. Like I'm building this stuff in the open and then sharing it and being like, here's a skill I made. Here, I've shared this dashboard to the entire company. I'm like, you guys can use it if you want. And I've like gone to the director of software and showed it to him, and he's like, that's cool. So nobody's telling me no. So I'm using it as an opportunity to learn how to use this stuff better and share it with other people too.
All right, just a few more. Has it actually made you more productive, or has it created new problems?
I would say it definitely has made me more productive. The problems it's creating for me now is that I'm like spreading myself very thin across many different projects. Because now I feel like I got 6 Claude tabs open and I'm trying to like solve all this shit all at once, and I need to just like slow down and just solve one problem at a time.
I think that's the nature of
Um,
where this is taking us.
yeah, I've got like
The trick is to go faster.
Yeah, I shipped like 14 PRs a week ago, which is like great. But now I have like 20 open PRs and I don't even know when I'm going to get to all of it. That's what it feels like. I'm trying to do too much at once. So I feel like I need to,
Not enough work trees.
yeah, I have like 12, 20 I don't know, so many work trees. So that's the hardest thing, is like making sure I clean up after myself and like slow down and focus.
What would you build differently knowing what you know now?
I feel like this isn't a behavioral interview, Scott.
I got a few more. We're almost there.
What would you build differently? I don't know. Every day I'm sort of improving upon it, and you asking that question is like helping me understand like how do I focus in and not create so many artifacts that it's like hard for me to like, I don't know, understand everything that I've created, because you can just like create so much, and then now it's like, okay, I can't even keep track of all of it anymore. Um, so so just building a way to like continue to improve that.
Is this something you think anyone could build, or do you think your skill set had a role in you being able to build this?
I think anyone can build it. It's just gonna take a long time unless you have unlimited tokens.
All right, last one, right? What's the thing someone could take away from this and apply to their own workflow tomorrow?
If you have the tools, experiment and find better ways to use AI. It could be in very simple ways. Like, we can get into the skills I've created. I think a lot of those are really helpful, to
Yeah,
just make your life easier.
let's
Yeah.
talk about the outcome of the skills that you ended up coming from there.
I have a start of day and end of day skill that sort of like work together in a sense. So I'll trigger end of day and literally end of the day. It'll like ask me different sets of questions based on like what happened. So that in the morning I can kick off my starter day, and it will give me like a quick recap of, it's basically like a stand-up update from Claude. And something nice about it is I can have it surface like a very basic briefing, or I can say like, tell me more about like other projects, like what's on my radar that I'm not thinking about. That's one nice thing. Um, and then a couple other skills: PR status, PR watch. Those work together. That is just like pulls all the checks on GitHub, tells me the status of them, tells me if it's ready to be merged, like it has enough approvals, tells me what comments are there. So I can like have Claude dig into the comments if I need to. The watch will run every like 5 minutes. You can customize it and just check for new comments, tell me if the PR is ready, etc. If the PR is ready, it posts a Mac notification so I can go ahead and merge it. Mind dump is another one, which is basically just a partner skill to the end of the day, where I just give stream of consciousness thoughts and then it tries to organize it into doc, like an MD file for me, which is good. And then another one I've been experimenting with is just more specific use case. Is I have a couple contentful skills because we use contentful for CMS that I've connected to the API. So I can say like, pull the content types, tell me how these work. It like, and then I've experimented also with like architect some new content types, create them. That's something I'm playing around with, which is a little crazy. It's like connecting it to the database, but it's been pretty cool to try. Those are my primary ones. The other one is not my skill that I stole from this guy. Is it Matt Pocock on
The
YouTube? The
TypeScript
Grill Me
guy.
skill. Yeah. It's a simple skill, but it like tells Claude to very slowly ask you questions about your plan or like basically anything. I'll just like invoke it when I want to like make sure I'm covering all my bases when I'm trying to implement something. And I found it pretty good at helping Claude understand what I'm thinking, but also making sure I've thought through all the like edge cases on something.
Nice. Yeah, we'll definitely have to like. I feel like do maybe more of a deep dive on your skill setup and talk a little bit about like how you approach developing these, but then also like when you knew to reach for creating one versus like not. I guess I'm generally really curious because I don't use skills too much, so I'd be yeah. I feel like we should spend some time talking about like where you found them beneficial, like how you thought about them.
Yeah, sometimes I create them and then an hour later I'm like, that was not worth it. And then some of them just kind of stick around as I feel like, oh, I'm reaching for this over and over.
Cool. Yeah, I feel like the common theme for this whole like sort of episode was like just like you can go do things with AI. Like right, like this whole dashboard that you've created is just like you started with like, oh, like why don't we experiment with something? And then like I have some like itches I need to scratch with like I want some info about what tickets I'm assigned. Like I always go to here to see my PRs or whatever. And it's like pretty cool to see that, yeah, like I don't know, it's like relatively easy with agents to like go and do that stuff now.
Yeah, I think like one of the outcomes is like you built something, helps makes you more performant, and you started to discover like the I guess like the value in skills, and then you started to build those. So it's one thing's kind of led you to another to improve your performance or your productivity rather, and you're learning more about it like almost indirectly by trying to help yourself. So I think there's like a lot of value in just kind of playing around, building something that excites you. This sounds like this dashboard was like something that it makes you more efficient, but it also got you excited to build something. You know, sometimes you do
Yeah.
stuff at work that's like a work project and it's not super exciting. And yeah, AI did a bunch of it, but I'm sure you learned some things along the way, and skills is like a good example of that.
Yeah, it's kind of like a creative outlet in a sense, even though I'm not doing so much of the crafting of the work. It's more just putting ideas onto a site. Yeah, and a caveat is like it may have sounded like everything I did worked great, but that's not always the case with AI. So you still have to like put a magnifying glass over what it's giving you from time to time and make sure it's correct.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for like walking through like going to a deep dive of this. I'll have to like now basically take the summary of this episode and hand it off to my agent and tell it to build me my own dashboard using inspiration from yours.
Perfect.
uh, Wonderful. All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in this week. Remember to leave a review of the episode and the show on your favorite podcast network. We appreciate 7 ultra thinks out of 3 the most. Remember, if the app doesn't let you do that, then it's a bug on their end and not on ours. Feel free to join the Bike Shed Community Discord server to connect with other folks in the tech ecosystem, share your thoughts with us. Let us know what other software you're building with AI, personal software or otherwise. And you can find a link to the server as well as of our episodes, transcripts, episode summaries, etc. on bikeshedpod.com. That's bikeshedpod.com, all in one word. If you enjoyed this episode and other episodes, please share with your friends or your agents. Let me know what the agents think about the episodes, actually. That would be really interesting to hear. Otherwise, see you guys next week. Peace out.
Peace.
Later.